Shalom, WJC family. It is time for our weekly Torah Talk. We've had a few weeks off. It's great to be back from vacation to have our conversation about Parshat Shoftim, which is the parsha we'll be reading in its entirety in synagogue on Saturday morning. One of the great things about being on vacation is get to catch up on a little of the TV that we've been missing. And Tammy and I watched the first season of a great show called Ted Lasso on Apple TV. It is entertaining and deep and wonderful, and we can't recommend it highly enough. It's a show about an American football coach who ends up in London coaching professional soccer, and hilarity ensues, as we say. But I want to talk about the character of Ted Lasso himself. He is just this amazingly upbeat, optimistic character. No matter what happens to him, he's going through some hard times. I'm going to try and avoid spoilers here, but he just always puts a positive spin on things, a positive face on things. He's deterred. He's got amazing grit, and he just moves forward, and it's entertaining and it's wonderful. And there's one scene, again, avoiding spoilers, where he is able to see a bigger picture and forgive someone who has been terrible to him for a long time. And it's amazing. It's almost as if his constant positivity and optimism give him the ability to be forgiving. And ultimately, he's happier for it. And he's added goodness into the world. And isn't that what it's all about? So I was thinking about Ted Lasso, and I was thinking about the pasuk from this week's Parsha, Deuteronomy 19:11, which says, V'chi yiheh ish soneh l're'ehu. If, however, a person who hates another one, ve'arav lo, and lies in wait for him, ve'kam alav, and sets upon him, ve'hikahu nefesh va'met, and he strikes him and he dies, v'nas elachat ha'arim ha'el, and then flees to one of these protective cities. Ultimately, he can't take refuge in a city of refuge. So it seems pretty straightforward. A person, he hates someone, he lies in wait for them, and he strikes him down, is a murderer. But the Midrash has just an amazing take on this. Right? He says, if a man hates his neighbor and lies in wait for him and rises up against him, that this is actually a passage that misses a few steps. It says, from here they taught that if a man transgresses a light command, if a person transgresses a light commandment, in the end, they will come to transgress a grave one. And so what are the steps? It says, well, if a man hates his neighbor, that is actually breaking the mitzvah that you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Right? V'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. It's a light commandment. All you got to do is be nice to the people around you. Right? But if he breaks it and he hates someone and he stews on hate and stews on negativity, he's destined to transgress. You shall not hate. And then that's going to bring them to break. You shall not take revenge, or you shall not bear a grudge. And in the end, all of this hatred, all of this negativity will well up within them, and eventually they will come to spill the blood of their neighbor. In other words, it's not this commandment as it seems, as it appears to be, about a simple ambush, but it's about an approach to life. Right? There's a very famous Mishnah that says, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, avera goreret avera. A mitzvah begets a mitzvah, and a sin, an avera, begets another avera. this takes that same approach, right? So how do we interpret that, right? That when you do mitzvahs, when you're someone who does mitzvahs, you tend to do more mitzvahs. And so you're kind of on a mitzvah path. But when you're someone who tends to do nasty things, dastardly things, take advantage, whatever, then you tend to do that more often also. And eventually the mitzvah person kind of goes off this way, and the Avera person kind of tend to go off this way. And as the paths get farther and farther apart, it gets harder to hop one between the other. And the mitzvah person just loves doing mitzvahs and keeps doing mitzvahs. And the Avera person just loves doing Averas, but becomes habitual in doing Averas and just keeps doing that. And the more you go down life in that way, the farther these points get across, and the harder it is to be the other kind of person, to hop across paths. What this is teaching, and maybe what Ted Lasso is teaching as well, right, is that ahava goreret ahava, usnua goreret snua, right? Love begets love, and hatred begets hatred. In other words, when you put love into the world, when you put goodness and kindness and generosity and optimism into the world, it becomes easier to act with those things, goodness and kindness and generosity and compassion and optimism. It becomes easier and easier to act in the world with those things. It becomes habitual. Doing so just begets more. But the opposite is also true, as our Torah teaches, right? Snua goreret snua. Hatred begets hatred. The more times you put anger into the world and vengeance and negativity, and bear grudges and act in vengeance, the more you will continue to do so. And on, so on and so forth, until, as our Midrash in Sifrei Deuteronomy taught us, you'll end up maybe not lying in wait and murdering someone, but maybe embarrassing someone, which the rabbis say is equivalent of spilling blood, maybe doing some real damage to someone in their life or their livelihood. And that then will be on the person, on their conscience. So, what's the advice from Parshat Shoftim, from Devarim 19:11? It seems to be that we should all be a little more like Ted Lasso, a little more forgiving, a little more optimistic, a little bit more willing to just put goodness into the world and good principles into the world. And you know what? The world will send that goodness, that love, ahava, goreret ahava, love begets love, right back in our favor. May we all experience that kind of love. May we all put that kind of love into the world and get that kind of love back. May we all be able to, even when that hatred comes at us, when that negativity comes at us, respond with love and break that vicious cycle, so that we will all be living in a lighter, more loving, more optimistic, Ted Lasso kind of world. Shabbat Shalom.